avoid malpractices, and always vote for leaders who have your vision, not leaders who have missions.
The young people are the leaders of today, and we ought to create policies that favors them to participate in the electoral process and voice their opinion.
I have become a member of parliament during my time when I'm still a youth.
It has been argued that holding regular, free and fair elections is the hallmark of building a democratic society. This is because the election process determines who should stay in office, who should be thrown out of office, and who should replace those thrown out.
Keeping the Promise project, the idea was conceptualized prior to the 2016 Uganda's general election. And the reason why we conceptualized this project was premised on the fact that young people, for instance, in terms of demographics, constitute the highest, in terms of statistics, young people constitute the highest numbers in the population. The same goes for the election processes. We thought that it was important that we prepare young people from different parts of this country to participate and contribute meaningfully to electoral democracy during, before and after the 2016 general elections, to ensure that young people's issues are mainstreamed into the political agenda prior to the campaigns, during the campaigns, and after the campaigns, when eventually we get a new regime into office. So the project basically covers issues of young people's participation in electoral democracy prior to the elections, during the elections, and after the elections. The Keeping the Promise basically has three major objectives that Uganda Youth Network aims at addressing or aims at achieving. The first objective is to ensure that young people peacefully and meaningfully engage in the electoral processes, both prior, during, and after the elections. And the reason why we are saying that is that this country, right from the past 3 or 2 elections, has had a terrible history of violent conflict, where young people are at the center of violent conflict, where young people are being used by politicians to perpetrate violence during and after election. So we thought it was very important to prepare young people in this country to engage meaningfully in a manner that that does not demonstrate conflict, but in a manner that is quite meaningful. We utilize different media platforms to communicate a message of peace, to communicate a message of harmony during electoral processes, but also to encourage as many young people as possible to go and vote, because one vote alone can change the political landscape. And like I said earlier on, voting for me is the first duty of democracy. So it was very critical for us before the elections to create awareness, to encourage young people to go and register, encourage young people to go and check if their names are on the register, and also to send in complaints early enough to the Electoral Commission so that their issues were handled early enough before the actual voting. So we did a lot of awareness campaigns through a number of means. I said through the media, through radio talk shows, through television talk shows. We also we created a lot of peaceful awareness through the electoral caravans, where we are targeting basically young people in the slum areas, because usually experience will tell you that usually conflict begins from where young people are redundant, where young people are practicing antisocial behaviors like engaging in drugs and prostitution, and quite a huge number of young people that are engaging in this kind of conduct come from the slum areas, popularly known as ghettos. So we targeted areas where people don't reach these young people. People even first of all fear to get into those areas. Or sometimes when even they get there, they're not very sure how, which methodology they should use to actually reach out these people. Other things that we did during elections was to participate in electoral observation. That this was not an activity that was directly implemented under this project, but from our other partners in a manner that contributes to the objectives of this project. After the elections, we also engaged in a number of dialogues that are aimed at healing the wounds, because during the elections there was a lot of conflict, a lot of contestations among candidates. So we thought it is important that it is in order for us to continue building a culture of dialogue, despite the fact that results may not have happened the way you desired. You might have lost, you might have claimed you lost in a very unfair manner, but we are saying no matter what happened, harmony is very, very important, and we have done a number of dialogues aimed at continuing building the culture of peace and tolerance, regardless of what happens or regardless of the outcomes of the election. But also, most importantly, is to prepare ourselves for the 2021 elections when the time comes.
There has been a general sense that traditional politics and representative democracy, whereby voters determine the outcome of power struggles at the ballot box, failed to attract the attention of younger cohorts who felt alienated from political processes. But the February 2016 general elections attracted an unprecedented number of youth vying for parliamentary and other electoral seats.
As a commission, we realized that the biggest voters we had was the youth. And in order to engage with the youth, we employed methods that we know appeal to the youth. We conducted our publicity programs and voter education programs through entertainment shows, because that's where young people want to go and dance, and in the process you introduce your message. We use the popular media networks, the social media, because not all of them like reading newspapers or watching television, but they are active on social media. So we really gave a lot of priority to social media to communicate with the youth. We designed messages that preached against violence and called for peaceful participation in campaigns, in voting. So we tried to engage them that way. Then we had stakeholder meetings in which we met with the leaderships. Say, look, this is your country, elections should not divide us, elections is about a choice. If your choice differs from the other person's choice, it's not a crime. If your candidate goes through, well and good. If the candidate doesn't go through, then that candidate should try next time. So, and I think it worked, because we never saw violence that we have seen in other countries.
And I think the young people really, came in and participated in this process. They were the ones spearheading all these campaigns, and the majority of them voted. When you talk about this country, we're looking at 70+% population being young people. So when you see the high voters stand up this year, it is the young people definitely who turned up for voting. So I think, in my own opinion, they turned up for voting. But the question is, did they really own the voting? Are they convinced that they've made the right decision? That is also another thing that we are trying to fight with now. Because after voting for this candidate, the next day you hear that this candidate has been thrown out of parliament because of the papers. After voting for so and so, you get disappointed because you had all the hopes that this leader was going to address such and such an issue, but it's not being addressed. So those are some of the credentials that we look at.
So more young people. That's why even in the 10th parliament, majority, 80% are below 40 years. So I think that's something to celebrate. If you go to the councils, the district councils, you are going to see majority are young people. So I think we only need to ensure that these talents, the young people who have come, they are guided so they don't fall by the roadside and get rain. More needs to be done, but I think we seem to be on the right track.
We trained youth across this country, and our goal was to make them run respectable campaigns with real messages, but also campaigns where they would be respectful of their opponents as they passed on their messages, but also for them to understand that politics is not a do or die. You come present your manifesto. If voters don't accept it, you go back and prepare for the next election.
But sometimes young people in Uganda feel they live in a political system that does not give them their share of power and full citizenship, and try to find ways of making their voices heard.
And they have their right also to show their happiness or disgrace in any way.
Some of these things, whether people like it or not, we need some political intervention and dialogue and whatever. You know, people are unemployed. Even Parliament frustrates many. We are here as their representatives. Sometimes they don't have trust. What we are doing is on their behalf.
These elections actually are a clear manifestation that they were elections of the young people. You saw the huge turn-up of, the entire voting population on the day of elections. Even when they were frustrated by, the long queues, the materials being delivered very late. But the fact that we saw so many people get out there to vote, and yet mostly these were young people, I think that's a huge sort of milestone that we're able to register, because for the first time ever we also had live telecast sort of debates where we held discussions and debates with the aspirants from the main political parties, that's the NRM, the DP and the Go Forward. Just getting them on that same platform to deliberate on issues to do with how their candidates are, fronting or how are they prioritizing youth issues was a huge achievement. The fact that we were able, not only getting so many people out there for the first time, if you look at our historical, sort of democracy in terms of the times, we got the numbers out there, but then importantly, not many young people engaged. There was nothing like, the post-election violence as was predicted by so many polls. We were able to tell the young people not to accept to be used by politicians, and I think that's to me was one of the huge promises that we really made and we fulfilled, and I think we really did a good job.
We live in a country where the majority are young people. Now, what that means is that the young people must play a critical and central role in political processes. So they have a responsibility to offer themselves for elective positions at all levels. And it's important for them to begin identifying their levels, because they should make personal assessments. What is my capacity? What is my ability? The mistake that most of them or some of them make is to think that political contribution must be at the level of parliament. They leave these lower local governments, they abandon them. But the biggest decisions and the biggest influence is really at the lowest levels. So we want to continue encouraging them to actively participate in political processes as candidates and at all levels.
2016 was unlike any other election. After the announcement of the election results, there was a lot of mixed feelings about the results, and this resulted into various court petitions, both at the presidential level, at parliamentary level, and at local council level. And this only tells a story of frustrations among the electorate. Some people, a majority of whom are youth, felt that the election in some respects did not reflect their will the way they had voted. They were frustrated.
Uganda is a very unique country. the only country where we have youth representation in parliament. So I think that needs to go down as credit to this government. So young people at least have an opportunity, unlike other countries, to participate directly in legislative processes within parliament. We have a whole National Youth Council structure that also gives young people to participate, because from the village level, young people can participate in decision-making processes. Now the question is, how have we shaped the leaders that we bring to these places to give the right representation to young people? But there are also other fundamental questions, legal framework questions that still need to be dealt with.
If you looked at the percentage of the youths who participated in this recent election, actually 70% of the youths were candidates in this election. The old tax, most of them lost. And it is new tax now who are in local government and parliament. What does it mean? That there is now a sense of a feeling that this country, we own it, and therefore we should participate fully in the affairs of this country. Be it elections, let the youth participate. That is why you see 70-old-year people have lost the election, and 25, 30, 40 years are members of parliament, are members of local government.
Young people, but still few who participated in politics, and some of them are part of our participants in this training, and then also we haven't mobilized many others, but in particular the districts where we are working with the project. I know about 4 or 5 who are in those who went through the elections, both males and females, but there is still a challenge when it comes to information for these people to access that information on participation in politics or in leadership. And then also there are those who are limited by their abilities to move from their home areas to where they say, or to move from one place to another in terms of mobilization in order to take up those leadership roles.
Whatever we do right today, we will enjoy it tomorrow. And if we do the wrongs today, we will suffer the consequences. And you know that the adults are living with history. They only have history. This used to happen. Whereas for us, whatever we do today is right. Therefore, it's very, very instrumental that the young people offer themselves for leadership, so that we're not only used to pin posters around, we're not used to throw stones, we're not used to go around as a campaign material, but as a resource. One, by also instrumentally advocating and teaching the nation of these who have offered themselves for positions of leadership. We must have a say on who wins.
Okulonda kuno okwagwa abavubuka babawa chance okwenyigiramu kuba bagenda maaso n'okusisinkana abakulira ebitundu nga bagenda babagamba bafune abavubuka ab'omu kitundu basobole okusomesebwa ku ngeri y'okukuumamu obululu n'ey'okukuuma eddembe mu ekyo ekiseera ky'okulonda, era nga bagenda mu maaso n'okutukuŋŋaanya ne batubuulira ne batusomesaamu engeri gye tuyinza okukuumamu akalulu, engeri gye tuyinza okubeera ng'embeera eri mu nteeko tewali butaataganya bonna, era ne tugenda mu maaso n'okukikola.
Previous elections, 2016, the general elections, we had a number of issues that we are raising. You just understand that that contest was so vibrant, and in that everyone expected violence in these elections. And who are these people doing violence or involved so much themselves into violence? These are the young people, and these are the young people paid to draw violence everywhere. So as young people, we thought of coming up with something that is so touching, something that can bring our fellows together to connect, to understand and appreciate the beauty of peace. So we came up with designing the graffiti art component, whereby graffiti art component is just a hip-hop component. More of the Black Americans use the graffiti and hip-hop to promote peace and unity among races. So these people were so successful. So we also domesticated this same idea of graffiti art to the current Uganda, to understand and to draw understanding to the young people that they have a role to play
Yes, young people are now realizing that yes, and leadership is one way of addressing public concern. You know, those days we used to see that it is only the old people after retirement, that's when you go now and rest. That was looked at as a retirement package. But now we are looking at a situation where we need to focus on the future. And if we youth do not rise up and do what is actually supposed to be done for ourselves, then nobody will do it for us. We really need leaders who are young, who are old, who are medium in ages, so that we balance the ideas. The country is balanced.
The young people are still, aggrieved. They are still hating each other because so and so was in the other camp. So and so ate money from this, this candidate. So there hasn't been any post-election engagement that can bring back the young people together to let them know that this electoral process was just a game, that maybe this football team, the other one won and the other one lost.
We tend to undertake evaluation workshops with different stakeholders, including the youth, to let us know their feel, what we did right in their view, where they were not satisfied with us, and where we can do much better. We will engage. We will engage with them. Some of the development partners are ready to support us in those engagements, but also government of Uganda is supporting us. So we hope to roll out maybe in the near future.
Such a response to people who are not contented is very unfortunate, because it only breeds more discontentment and makes more urgent the need to change the governance situation in our country.
But we also ask the participants to be able, the candidates to be able to make promises that are realistic, promises that they are able to deliver on, other than lying, other than being deceitful, but focus on the idea that people believe people who are realistic, and that you can only win a campaign if you win people's hearts. Campaigns are not about money, but they're about your ability to convince and win people to your side.
We can write history by believing within young people that are running contest. And I implore those that have gotten these positions to actually save the youth by really performing to the expected level, so that people who think that the young people are only coming to look for survival are disproved.
We have not much we can require of the generation that is in leadership now, higher leadership of the country, the executive, because they're pretty much running the last lap of their race naturally. So I think that the duty that is bestowed upon us as young people is to make sure that we do everything to create the kind of country we want our children to live in.
So the impact of this of the trainings we did is going to live long after today and after the election, because participants are trying to relive some of the techniques and the information we gave them. They're trying to organize themselves as they prepare for the 2021 elections, and a lot of them are on the ground trying to make sure that they are known and that they are passing on a positive message of hope to the constituents where they want to run in the next election.
There was nothing like the post-election violence as was predicted by so many polls. We were able to tell the young people not to accept to be used by politicians, and I think that to me was one of the huge promises that we really made and we fulfilled, and I think we really did a good job. Yeah.